You're looking to start a business but don't have the documents or undocumented? Well, I am too, and I've been able to start my own businesses, and I'm gonna share those challenges, I'm gonna share those successes, and I'm gonna share how you can get your UndocuHustle on. My name is Alejandro Flores, Senator Flores, and I'm excited to share my journey with you today. More like an entrepreneur who has lived experiences that are not normal like everyone else, right? We can't start a business with a small business loan of $1 million, right? There's not such a thing. When we talk about us starting our business, it's with a small business loan of like $1,000, right? It's nothing huge. And so that's, I think, what UndocuHustle embodies. It embodies somebody who is trying to survive and has realized that they can scale up their business, not just to pay the bills, not just to have enough money to go to the club, not just enough money to, get those new kicks and get that new whip. It's actually, how can we build wealth for generations to come? How can we buy back the block, right? We've been being gentrified for so long. Gentrification is real. How can we buy back the block? How can we, I heard this term gentrification, right? How can we switch it back? How can we bring that entrepreneurship spirit to life? And I think it really embodies through this UndocuHustle narrative, which is, let's talk about our struggles. Let's talk about our success. Let's talk about how we did it. Let's share it with others so that they too can get their UndocuHustle on. It's not a secret. We've been doing it for many years. My mom was doing UndocuHustle when she first came to this country, which was selling flanes, right, in the fall. And it was selling tamales in the winter. It was selling colchas and perfumes and Tupperware and Medicaid and all those things, right? That's what the UndocuHustle is all about. My UndocuHustle right now is having a food truck, having catering businesses. That's my UndocuHustle right now. My UndocuHustle can change from time to time. My UndocuHustle is this, making YouTube videos. That's part of the UndocuHustle. And so, if you are a undocumented immigrant, if you're a documented immigrant, think about ways that you are already doing the UndocuHustle. You might already be doing something that's UndocuHustle like. What is it? Tell me what your UndocuHustle is. We can build a community of a lot of UndocuHustlers that will eventually be able to buy back the block, eventually have that voting power, eventually have the economic stability, eventually have that economic power that that a specific community has had and held grip for so long. And it's our time to take this power back. So I've been in the hustle for now, I want to say, a little bit over 5 years. I started sunglasses when I was 23 years old in 2013. And that was a year after DACA went into place. And so at that time, I felt a little bit safer, a little bit more secure because now I had DACA under my belt. But let's not forget that I was brought to this country when I was 7 years old, which means that I had been living under the shadows and undocumented and all those uncertainties for a long, long time. And so now when I come into business and I have some sort of uncertainties or not knowing what happens, my lived experiences as an undocumented immigrant have prepared me and have allowed me to take in some of these challenges with a different perspective. And not only that, but I've also been able to overcome some challenges and barriers quicker because all my life has been surrounded with barriers and uncertainties as an undocumented immigrant. And now when something like that comes into business, I think about my grit, my lived experiences, all those things that make us have that strength, make us feel that power that we're gonna be able to get through this because been able to get through so much in this country already that sometimes in business it comes out a lot easier. looking back, I realized that it was something that I kind of fell into it, but because we were almost born into it. What I mean by that is looking back and looking at my mom's hustle, right? My mom didn't plan to be an entrepreneur. She was doing it because she was trying to survive. She was trying to put food on the table, and so her job wasn't enough. So she had to create some side hustles like selling colchas in the winter, selling perfumes and colognes and fragrances in the summer, making cheesecakes and flans in the fall and selling it to her neighbors. That is an entrepreneurship trait that I grew up with. I saw that hustle day in and day out. Just like many of you out there, see that with your parents, we see that with our relatives, we see that we are hustlers by nature because we need to survive, because it's not never enough, but it's always just enough only to pay for the rent, to pay for the bills, but never enough to truly build wealth. Which is why now I am more conscious about what entrepreneurship means and how we can make that viable and scalable for others. Now that I have had myself two side hustles in the past, I've utilized those two side hustles to prepare me and to get me to the place I am right now, which is feel comfortable enough to quit my full-time job and then to focus 100% in my hustle and make my business into a reality. And so, no, it didn't come naturally. It was something that I stumbled upon, but realized that this was a very viable option for me to create wealth, not only for myself, but for my community. And so entrepreneurship is something that it needs to be elevated into our communities and not just a reason to survive or to make money. It needs to be something that we're able to truly create wealth. So if you're thinking of starting a hustle, the time to do that is now, because you want to be in 5 years from now, you want to be the person who says, you know what, I started a side hustle 5 years ago, and today it's a full-time hustle. And so sometimes it might take 5 years, sometimes it might take 3 months. You don't know how long that's going to take. You just have to get started now and love the process while you're doing it. Here's the crazy thing. You have an undocumented immigrant living in the United States, figuring out how to communicate with somebody in China. Like, I haven't even been to Mexico in 23 years. And here I am trying to get somebody from China to figure out the process on how they can become a manufacturer for my sunglass line. And it was an interesting thing. It was when Skype was a huge thing. I don't know if you guys remember Skype. I kind of use it now, not as much anymore. But I remember I was Skyping with people in China. And first of all, you have to realize the time difference. Like, there's a huge time difference. Thankfully enough, they stay up late and cater to our times, which is awesome. But there was times where I was at 3 in the morning contacting them, and it was definitely a challenge. However, the way that I got started and figured it out was by just going for it. Google, right? Like, it lives in everybody's pocket. You have a computer on your phone. One of the things that I quickly realized at that time was this store called Alibaba. Have you heard of Alibaba? Right? Alibaba has become such a huge worldwide organization or business that they made it attainable, a lot easier for me to be able to import things from here. But in the process, I learned things like I had to actually get my sunglasses tested and they had to pass inspections. I couldn't just import something to the United States. It had to pass some sort of inspections. And then after that, I had to figure out freight. I had to figure out how to actually ship, 35 cases of, sunglasses to the United States. And so all of it was a process that I have learned.
Cut there and cut this question out. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking in my mind, so what was it like to try to talk to them in your English with their English? I mean, tell me a funny story. Were there times you didn't understand what they were talking about, or what happened there?
Have you ever heard of the thing ni de aquí ni de allá, which is not from here or from there? I live that every single day, right? Sometimes I'm, writing an email and I forget a word and I don't know how to spell it, or I don't know, if it makes sense. So, and that's just me communicating with other people here in English, right? So, trying to communicate with somebody that their dominant language isn't English either, sometimes it was a little bit challenging because I wasn't making sense when I wanted to send a design. Sometimes they weren't understanding what I was saying. Sometimes I wasn't understanding what they were saying. And so we figured it out, right? At the end of the day, we figured it out a lot of with pictures. You'd be surprised. I was sending a lot of pictures. Like, I want my sunglasses to look like this. This is the color that I'm looking for. This red color right here that you see, I love it. Can you duplicate this color? So, we figured it out at the end of the day. And it was a process. Actually, funny thing, one of the people who was my account manager actually changed companies in China, and they sent me an email saying, Mr. Flores, just to let you know, I'm now with a new company in China. If you ever need any manufacturing needs, if you need anything, I built a relationship with somebody across the world. And we continue to communicate. I'm not really pushing sunglasses right now, so I let them know that I'm not in that business right now. However, that's a connection and an opportunity that I can jump into right away because I know that process. I know how to get it started. I know I'm starting off of a good starting point. And so, it's been great working with, trying to figure out all this whole process.